Hello neighbors, it's Brad here at eTrailer, and today we're taking a look at the Thule TracRac SR Ladder Rack with Cantilever. Now this is going to be a great option for those of you that have a 2024 Silverado and you're really just looking to add storage up top above your bed, whether it be for lumber, surfboards, ladders as the name implies, or really anything in between. But the great part about this rack is going to be its versatility and usable storage above the roof that normally you wouldn't get with a standard ladder rack. Some of the other ladder racks out there will be ones with an extension above the front, but it's not adjustable. You're kind of stuck with that. A lot of times they're heavy and you get a lot of wind noise with really no adjustability. Whereas this one, say I wanted to load a refrigerator in the back, something tall, you can simply undo these knobs, slide this all the way forward, and it's going to nest up with the other one so you get full bed access. And that's why I think a ladder rack is really cool. Generally, you're going to get more space than you would a camper top, but you get kind of the versatility of having, a spot up top that's not normally used, and having nice tie down points and cleats really makes this a versatile storage solution for really any truck out there. And this one in particular, Thule is a fantastic product. Every touch point's really nice. It's lightweight yet strong. It all fits well together. But with that being said, the instructions leave a little bit to be desired. So it's not exactly a hard installation, but it's not the most straightforward. And that's what I'm going to help you do throughout the installation process. But before we get into that, if you're looking for ladder racks, this might be the one that you're going to want to take a look at and look at the reviews, look at the specs and see if it matches what you're looking for. But really, this is one, you buy this and you can leave it on your truck for a long time, and I think you're going to be happy no matter what you're doing with it, whether it be work or play. Having that versatility plus all the usability really just checks all the boxes. Now, speaking of that installation, you should be able to do this on your own. None of it's particularly hard. Again, it's mostly just the instructions are going to be multi-piece, and trying to figure out what they're actually trying to say is half the battle, and that's why I'm going to walk you through it. But if you decide that maybe this is beyond your scope, maybe you don't have the tools, the place, or even the want to do it yourself, you could reach out to our dealer locator to find someone close to you to get this installed. But with a few basic hand tools, a torque wrench, maybe some hex bits, we'll be able to get this knocked out. Give yourself a couple hours. It's not exactly an easy one, just because trying to get everything squared up. So take your time, do it right the first time, and you'll be able to use this the rest of the time that you own your truck. So let's take a look at that installation. Now, to begin our installation, we're going to be getting the base rails mounted up, and it's going to use the factory stake pocket location. And then up front, you may or may not have a cap that we'll have to cut to use that stake pocket. But if you have the GM Multi-Pro tailgate with the built-in handle, this may get in the way of getting one of our spots mounted up. So we're going to get this removed. 13mm socket should be the two studs that we have here, as well as one on the back. That's going to be a bolt, so we'll get this removed temporarily. And just be careful, because this plate that attaches it is, it can drop in, so just make sure. I would recommend getting, just one of the nuts put back on just so it doesn't fall back into the bed. And that's going to at least hold that in place for us. And the whole reason we're removing this is to gain access to this plug where we're going to be mounting up hardware, so you can go ahead and take that out. So eventually we'll be passing down a block that will have a bolt going through here, and that's going to get everything secured on the back stake pocket. But if we head up to the front, we'll go ahead with a utility knife or a box cutter. We're going to cut out the plastic cap. Now we can begin to start getting it attached. So take your base rail and put it up. You'll see the channel portion is going to be facing up. The bottom should be the smooth portion, and just kind of get the holes loosely aligned. And now there are two holes, and we are going to be using the inside hole on ours today. It depends on the year of truck. And we're going to have our long bolt here with a plastic washer. So I'm going to pass this down through the inside hole, so just make sure you have that proper orientation. And then we have this block. It's threaded on the top portion, and this is going to slide down And this hole with the threaded portion is going to align with that plug that we took out, and we'll be able to bolt it up. So I'm going to thread this on. You don't have to thread it too far. In fact, leave it fairly loose. Reason being is we can get this all dialed in. So as I pass this down, I see my threaded portion through the hole. And so we're going to attach the smaller bolt with the yellow thread lock and a flat washer and just get this threaded on. Now, it doesn't have to be perfectly, in the center. If you want to, you can dial that in a little bit. But for now, we're just going to kind of get this threaded on. And I actually like to use the bolt as kind of an indication that we have it threaded properly up top. So I'm just going to kind of get this threaded in place. And then before we get any of this dialed in, we're going to head up to the front and get that one loosely attached so we kind of have the start of this coming together. Now on the front side, towards the cab, we're going to be using the outside hole. So just make sure that you're staggering those bolts according. Same thing, plastic washer. And I'm just going to thread it through here and drop it in. And then we have our rubber block. This is going to go through the small portions. And what this is going to do is it's going to act kind of like a drywall anchor because as we start to push or tighten the hardware down, it's going to widen this rubber out, filling the void and giving it a nice secure feel. So just push the threads through, and then we have our spacer block that's threaded. I'm just going to loosely get this started on the threads of our bolt. And then I'll just drop this in place. Now what I'm going to do is grab the included hex tool that they have, and I'm going to just go up to the top bolt and just draw it up until I get this perfectly aligned. So this is why I like to have the bolt. You can use it to kind of visually gauge exactly if it's in the center. And I feel pretty good about right here. And just kind of move that around, make sure it's exactly where you want centered. And then once we're happy with that, we're going to get this tightened down. Now you can use this. I have a hex bit, and you're also going to want a torque wrench eventually to get this torqued down properly. So an 8mm will accomplish that. I'm going to snug it down and then finish it up with the torque wrench. So again, get this centered up. And you are going to start to notice that the rails are going to not be perfectly level with the side, and that's totally normal because beds have contour towards the outsides. It's really not going to be a perfect line. The main thing is it's going to be parallel with our other rails so we can slide our rack back and forth. So I have this snugged. I am going to take my torque wrench, use the torque setting found in the instruction manual, and torque this down. Now once you torque down that bolt on the side, the rear should be pretty stable and not really want to move too much. But the front, it still has quite a bit of play here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start snugging this down. I want to make sure I don't go too tight because I do want some adjustability, because the next thing we're going to do is really make sure everything's leveled up. That way we can actually slide our rails. If you're off kilter a little bit, it's going to cause binding and make it not so easy to move those rails. So just giving it a little spin here just to kind of snug it up is going to keep this from moving around on us too much. Now at this point, trying to make sure everything's level and squared up, I have my tape measure across, and so I found a point from the very edge to the edge of our plastic is right at 70 inches. So I'm going to work my way down, getting a few measurement spots all the way across to make sure that it's going to hold that measurement tight. Because again, if it channels narrow or wide, it's going to cause binding. So I'll go ahead and double check all these measurements. Another way that you could do this is by using your crossbar that's in your kit. So I put mine kind of flush on that edge, and then I took a piece of tape and lined it up with the inside groove. And that's just an establishing point. So as I move down, I can reference that and adjust as necessary. Another thing we'll be checking for is sometimes these can bow in or out, which will also cause binding. So we want it as level as possible. So as you're moving this down, check for any gaps or curling of these side base rails. And if you do have some of that, there is going to be some rubber shims that you can use, and those are just going to wedge underneath and create that barrier to kind of tuck those up to where they're square. So take your time, double check everything, because once you kind of have it set in place, it's going to set the tone for the rest of the installation. Now, in order to make sure that this is all square, we're going to want to start at the cab side of the truck, and you can use your cross rail to become a good reference to make sure that it's going to be all squared up. So what I kind of did was put the flat edge flush, and then kind of feeling over here, it's really close to being completely flush with the edge of it. So not only are we going to be looking for the width to be the same all the way back, but also we need to make sure that these are going to be squared up as possible, because as they may want to bow outside or in, that's also going to cause binding on our rails. So if that's the case, if we're finding a gap, there is rubber shims that you can put underneath your rail. So that's why it's important we don't tighten all of this down. It's still relatively loose. So I'll go through, make sure it's all squared up, check for any gaps, and what you're looking for is a 1/16 of an inch plus or minus, which is very small. So really trying to get this as dialed in as possible. It's going to make sure that long term, all that adjustability is going to be nice and smooth for us. Now I got everything all lined up and squared up. So what I ended up doing is on the front side, I found finally a reference measurement for you to use is going to be 69.5 inches from outside edge of this rail to the other outside edge. And I got that squared up and worked my way down. And you may have to kind of play around with some of the hardware to get it, you know, loosened up, to put some shims under it, because looking at it too, again, you want it nice and square. So we did have to slip some on the outside edge to kind of square that back up. So 69.5 goes all the way down for our measurements. And at this point, you can go through and torque down the hardware up top. You're going to find that torque setting in the instruction manual. Once you have both sides in place, we're now going to grab our small 1/4 inch screws and head up to the cab, where we're going to get those in place as a stop. And we'll just hand tighten these into the threaded holes before coming back with an Allen and tightening these down. We'll be doing this on both sides. Now we're going to hang tight on putting the stops on the tailgate side, but while we're up here, you're going to want to grab those plastic caps that are included in your kit, and these are going to slide and pop into the holes where our hardware fed. There's also those excess holes, so just make sure that you're covering all of them on both rails. Now we're going to get ready to put our uprights in place, but since we're going to be doing the cantilever front, it makes sense to get this top plate, which is going to go to our crossbar, swapped out to the cantilever style. So first we're going to make sure that we have 2 of these set up. This bar is going to face towards the tailgate. Make sure that the sticker is on the outside, so it should kind of sit like this. And when it's kind of pitched at this angle, this should be flat up top. But we'll be removing this, so keep in mind exactly this shape. And in order to do this, the 7/32 on these hex are going to be the ticket. Now they can be pretty tight here, so just you might want to have a hex bit ready to go. It is rather tight, but we're going to work these out, and then we're going to swap the new style on for our cantilever. It's going to look like this, so we want to make sure it's in the proper orientation, and we're going to be using new hardware on this. Now we'll put that new top plate on. The hardware is going to be almost identical. The reason we're using new hardware is, well, we have it and it's got that thread sealant on it. So it's just going to make sure everything's going to be nice and tight for the lifespan of our ladder rack. Once we get this side done, we're going to repeat that same process on the other side. So we'll have both of these ready to go. Now we'll grab our new cantilever style adapter, put this in place, and then tighten it down with new hardware. The reason we're using new hardware, it's going to be identical to the hardware we took off, but having that thread locker on there and getting a fresh start at it means that it's really going to hold that in place long term. And once we get these snug down, there is a torque setting associated, so refer to your instruction manual for that, and we'll get this torque down. So now we're going to assemble our crossbar onto our new cantilever style uprights. And the way that we're going to do this is we slotted one in already. Make sure that you have the 2 grooves here. You can kind of see the lip up top. It's smooth here though. This one has 2. That's going to be our bottom side, so make sure you get that in place. It's going to align with our square nuts that we have and the small hex bolts that look like this. So make sure you get the flat part of that square nut down, and these are going to slide into these slotted portions, and then we're going to just kind of get this all aligned. And it's easier to do this off the truck and kind of get it loosely assembled like we have it here, and then guide it on, and trying to do it while it's in the truck. So once we have that safely in place, we can raise this up and just kind of make sure it doesn't slide out. And we're going to go on the outside channel. So you have 2 channels to choose from here. We're going to go on the outside and just slide this in, working at the same time. So at this point, just slide this forward, keeping it nice and even as you draw it back. It should be pretty smooth overall. I'm also going to get our crossbar pretty well centered up, because we're going to start to assemble the cantilever while we have some space before being over the cab. It's a lot easier to do it this way. So we'll grab those parts and we're going to start installing the cantilever. We're going to grab our saddle hub and a cantilever arm, and we're going to make sure that this is the proper orientation for it. So just as we saw before, you have 4 ribs on the bottom, 2 at the top. The same goes for the cantilever arm. So you'll see this portion, the saddle arm is going to go in the cantilever arm, and then as we flip this over, we're going to grab 6 of our smaller hex head bolts, and I'm just going to get these threaded in by hand to get them started, because as we tighten them, we're going to want to make sure that we do this evenly following a star pattern, and there is going to be a torque setting associated with them. And I'm going to just start getting these snug. I'm not going to get them tight, but once you get resistance, I'm going to stop on here because our torque wrench will take care of the rest, but we'll get these all snug down. And torquing this down to the torque settings, the star pattern that we're going to follow, we'll start here, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll also repeat on our other cantilever arm and get to this state. Now, before we get our cantilever arms on, we're going to want to tighten down our hardware below. So make sure that you have it, again, measured out so it's nice and even. And we're just going to snug this down. We're going to do both sides. And just make sure it stays in that pocket as you tighten it down. Now we'll grab our cantilever arm. We're going to slide this over, and we should have our horn that we had here, or that saddle, should line up with our bracket that we put in place. Now the hardware we're going to be using is going to be these bolts. You'll see that I put some anti-seize on here, and that way long term, you know, it's not going to get corroded or rusted and make it almost impossible to get these off. So we'll thread one in on each side, front and back, and then we're going to repeat on the other side as well. So that way we'll have both of our cantilever arms in place. Once we have those snug down, we'll just come back with the torque wrench and get these all properly torqued. Now we're going to grab our cantilever crossbar, and we're going to be grabbing our black slotted studs, and this does have a top just like we've seen with the other ones, so the more grooves are going to go on the top here. And what I'm going to do is grab our little T-bolt there, and we're going to slide that one way, this on the other. And as we put this in place, these are going to go on this top mounting tab, and I have a nylon nut that we're going to get this in place, and then we can snug that up, and that way it's going to hold itself in. just going to hand tighten this for now. Now on the bottom side, we're going to have a slot as well. We're going to grab this T-slotted bolt, and I'm going to feed this back, and that's going to become our bottom mounting point. So we'll take a flat washer and then our nylon lock nut, and we'll get this threaded in place. And we're going to take another one of those slotted bolts and slide this in. And then you're going to have some supports look like this, and we're going to slide this on and finish this bottom up with a flat washer and nylon lock nut. And then you'll see that the hole on the bottom of our cantilever arm is going to bolt up to our support, and that's going to be just a standard bolt that we have and a nylon lock nut here, so we'll get that in place. Now we'll get that same configuration of hardware and support on the other side, and then we'll come back and snug them all down. So now we have our cantilever all set up. We can scoot this forward. So if you put a little bit of upward pressure on the cantilever and move it evenly, it should move forward pretty simply. And again, just make sure you're moving it at the same time so it's nice and even. So the hardest part is really done. Now it's just getting the rest of the accessories on here and then repeating really the same step of the crossbars onto our rail. Now we won't have to change out the ends or anything like that for our other ones, so it makes it pretty easy. So at this point, I'll show you the hardware and show you where this goes, but we're just going to continue assembling. We'll take this guy and put it on our square. You'll see this raised portion. We'll take our blue thread lock bolt. Now, when you're putting your rear rail on, you got to make sure that you're going on the inner slot. And the reason being is having these in two separate channels means that these can nest together. So if you ever needed, full bed access, you could slide this all the way up. So just make sure that you're getting it on the inside slot if you did the outside slot for your cantilever. Once you get everything tightened down, you can go ahead and get it adjusted. Load up whatever you may have for work or play. Don't forget to put that handle back in if you have that multi-pro tailgate. But other than that, you're ready to start using your Thule TracRac. Thanks for taking a look at the installation, and if you installed this yourself or you had someone install it, either way, let us know how you're using it. We love to see pictures of neighbors out there using the products out in the wild, especially something like this. More times than not, you're going to see this on a construction truck, but I've seen these all over the place doing all kinds of things. This does actually have the potential to support, a rooftop tent, so if that's something you're doing or using it as a work truck, please share comments, tips, pictures, anything you have. And hopefully this video helped you get installed your Thule TracRac sliding ladder rack for your 2024 Chevy Silverado 1500.